We are all going to die. Yeah, but hopefully not because Republicans and the Trump administration cut Medicaid, food stamps, and now FEMA. Welcome to the No Spin Zone. Graphs Grievances starts right now. For years, Iowa was considered both a swing state and a bellwether, a reflection of the country's political direction. In the year 2000, Democrat Al Gore narrowly won Iowa by just 4,000 votes over the eventual winner of that election, Republican George W. Bush. 4 years later, Bush got his payback, defeating Democrat John Kerry by about 10,000 votes. In 2008, Democrat Barack Obama carried Iowa over Republican John McCain by 9 points, and again in 2012, beating Republican Mitt Romney there by 6 points. But in 2016, Republican Donald Trump flipped the state, beating Democrat Hillary Clinton by 9 points. Trump did it again in 2020, defeating Democrat Joe Biden by 8 points. And in 2024, Trump defeated Democrat Kamala Harris in Iowa by 13 points. No state in the nation swung as hard to the right between 2012 and 2024 as Iowa. Neither party saw Iowa as competitive going into last year's election. Neither candidate even bothered to campaign there. A stark contrast to past cycles when Iowa was a key battleground. But despite Iowa's deep red shift, at least some Iowans still care about things like Medicaid, the program Republicans have targeted for over $700 billion in cuts in their so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Those cuts, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, would strip healthcare coverage from 9 million Americans. And that's exactly what Iowa's Republican Senator, Joni Ernst, was confronted about at a town hall on May 30th, when an Iowa constituent of hers pressed on whether those cuts would lead to people dying. Ernst's response? See for yourself.
So, people are not, well, we all are going to die. So, for heaven's sakes.
That's right. Senator Ernst, who is facing re-election next year, flippantly dismissed her constituents' concern, saying, quote, well, we are all going to die. Perhaps Iowans, like all people, just don't want to die prematurely because they cannot access health care or because they cannot feed their families. The House Republican passed tax and spend bill, now under debate in the Senate, also slashes $300 billion from SNAP, also known as food stamps. As outrage immediately grew to the senator's tone-deaf remarks over the weekend, rather than apologize, as you might expect would happen in a pre-Trump era of never apologize, never back down, Ernst doubled down on her remarks.
Hello, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday at my town hall. I was in the process of answering a question that had been asked by an audience member when a woman who was extremely distraught screamed out from the back corner of the auditorium, "People are going to die." And I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth. So I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well. But for those that would like to see eternal and everlasting life, I encourage you to embrace my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Really? What is wrong with her? How nasty is she? In Iowa, about 1 in 5 residents are covered by Medicaid, including half of all nursing home residents, according to an estimate from KFF. And just to be clear, Republicans are proposing nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and food stamps, as they give a $4 trillion tax cut that overwhelmingly benefits the wealthiest Americans. But Senator Ernst's proudly cavalier attitude towards life isn't unique to her or to congressional Republicans. President Donald Trump shares the same philosophy, actively working to dismantle FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, just as hurricane season officially began yesterday, June 1st. Trump can't legally abolish FEMA without Congress, but he's gutting the agency from the inside out, slashing its workforce and pushing to shift the costs of disaster recovery onto the states. By law, the federal government covers 75% of disaster recovery costs for states. That's critical because no state can shoulder the full burden alone. Yet, under Trump, the White House is pushing to downsize FEMA's role and leave states to bail themselves out. That's right. Trump has openly talked about getting rid of FEMA and has cut its staff by 30% since returning to the Oval Office. FEMA now has half as many trained disaster responders as it did this time last year. In his first week back in office, Trump declared that states should manage disasters on their own. An internal memo obtained by the Washington Post shows the administration wants FEMA to quadruple the damage threshold that states must meet before they qualify for assistance, making it much harder for communities to get help. Trump's budget this year proposes slashing $646 million from FEMA. Last month, Trump fired FEMA's acting head, Cameron Hamilton, just one day after Hamilton testified to Congress that eliminating FEMA would hurt the American people. Trump replaced him with David Richardson, a man with no emergency management experience, who told FEMA employees at a town hall, quote, "If you get in my way, I will run right over you." Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, whose department oversees FEMA, has also testified that FEMA should be eliminated altogether. The administration has also canceled key disaster mitigation programs, the very initiatives that help communities prepare before disasters strike. At the same time, Trump is slashing funding for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, and the National Weather Service, the agencies that track storms, issue warnings, and provide life-saving information when seconds count. And this is happening at the worst possible moment in U.S. history. In the 1980s, the U.S. faced just $3 billion disasters. Last year, it faced 27. Over the past decade, FEMA has responded to nearly 1,400 disasters: wildfires, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes. Since 2015, residents in Florida, Louisiana, and Texas, all red states, have received the most FEMA aid, each topping $2 billion in individual assistance. Natural disasters are exactly when the federal government should step in, because no state can manage a hurricane, wildfire, or flood alone. That's when Americans need to come together to help our neighbors. But when FEMA's role is weakened, response times slow, and that costs lives. And let's not forget, it's increasingly red states that suffer the most. Yet Trump is walking away from that responsibility, leaving Americans to suffer alone. So when Senator Ernst shrugged and said, "We're all going to die," she wasn't just being flippant. She was summarizing the Republican worldview. They are coming for Medicaid, slashing $700 billion in coverage for the sick, the elderly, and the vulnerable. They're coming for SNAP, gutting $300 billion from food assistance that helps families put meals on the table. And now they're coming for FEMA, NOAA, and the systems that protect us when disaster strikes, leaving Americans to fend for themselves in the face of hurricanes, wildfires, and floods. Apparently, they don't just want us to die eventually. They're working to make sure we die prematurely, whether it's from losing health care, from hunger, or being left to drown in a flood or burn in a wildfire. This isn't just bad policy, it's cruelty as a governing philosophy. And it's happening right now as hurricane season has officially begun. So if you're wondering whether it matters who holds power, whether it's worth fighting for a government that takes care of its people, just remember Senator Ernst's words. We're all going to die. But we don't have to die because our government has abandoned us, not if we fight back. Thank you for watching Graf's Grievances. Let me know what you think. Please consider supporting my channel via the Venmo link below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and join me tomorrow for more.